From what I can tell, more whites in America believe in ghosts than believe in racism. And that's why we have shows like Ghostbusters and not Racist Busters. I kind of took that attitude with me when I came into the NBA, and that did not serve me very well. I did not want to be part of showing the world a false image of America.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't waste time on drama. He played 20 seasons, won 6 MVPs, 6 championships, and retired as the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He respected the game, respected preparation, and respected opponents who approached basketball with the same seriousness he did. But Kareem also carried a sharp memory. For all the players he admired, there were others he never respected, not because of ability, but because of how they carried themselves, how they played, or how they handled competition. Kareem wasn't emotional or reactionary. If someone lost his respect, it came from specific behaviors, real moments, and experiences that stayed with him long after the games ended. Across 2 decades in the league, Kareem dealt with physical challengers who tried to intimidate him, rivals who crossed personal lines, opponents who used tactics he didn't believe belonged in the sport, and figures in power who clashed with his principles. Some were hard fouls, some were personal interactions, some were long-standing philosophical differences that never faded. These weren't simple on-court disagreements. They were moments that shaped how Kareem viewed them as competitors and, in some cases, as men. And when Kareem says he never respected someone, that carries weight. He rarely spoke publicly about grudges, and he didn't take them lightly. These are the 6 people Kareem Abdul-Jabbar never respected, and the reasons why those relationships never recovered. Before we go player by player, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new breakdown. Bill Laimbeer is one of the clearest examples of a player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar never respected. Their careers overlapped briefly in the early 1980s, and even in that short window, Kareem formed a strong opinion. It wasn't about Laimbeer's talent or production. It was about how he played, how he handled physical contact, and the way he accepted, and often initiated, confrontations without owning the consequences that came with them. Laimbeer entered the league in 1980, when Kareem was already a multiple-time champion and MVP. By the time Detroit developed the bad boys identity later in the decade, Kareem's prime years were behind him. But he watched Laimbeer's approach from a distance and had the same reaction many veterans did. The physicality was one thing, the way it was used was another. For Kareem, hard fouls were part of the NBA. He played through the rugged 1970s, battled tough centers, and took real contact night after night. But he drew a line at actions he viewed as unnecessary or reckless. Laimbeer frequently crossed that line. He boxed out with extended arms, swung his hips on rebounds, and delivered fouls that often had nothing to do with the ball. Kareem believed Laimbeer played in a way that put opponents at risk and didn't respect the craft of postplay. One moment defined their relationship. On November 28, 1980, Laimbeer, then with the Cleveland Cavaliers, delivered a hard, off-ball hit into Kareem's lower back while fighting for post position. Kareem had dealt with back injuries throughout his career, so the contact was not simply physical, it was potentially dangerous. Kareem reacted immediately. He turned around and punched Laimbeer in the face, breaking Laimbeer's nose. Kareem received a suspension, but he didn't apologize for his response. In later interviews, he always maintained the same view. Laimbeer provoked the situation by playing recklessly. That incident became one of the NBA's defining early career moments for Laimbeer, and it shaped Kareem's opinion permanently. To Kareem, Laimbeer represented a style of basketball that prioritized disruption over skill. Kareem valued technical footwork, timing, angles, and control. Laimbeer often valued force, agitation, and psychological pressure. Kareem never saw those as equal approaches, and he didn't hide how he viewed the difference. When Laimbeer became a core piece of Detroit's championship teams later in the decade, Kareem was nearing the end of his career, but he observed from afar as Detroit became known for physical tactics designed to frustrate opposing stars. While the bad boys embraced that identity, Kareem never saw it as a legitimate basketball philosophy. He respected toughness, but not tactics built on excessive fouling, baiting, and altercations. Laimbeer was central to those tactics, and that reinforced Kareem's stance. Kareem also took issue with how Laimbeer reacted to confrontations. He believed opponents who initiated contact should accept responsibility for what followed. Laimbeer often escalated situations, but then presented himself as surprised or innocent once tensions rose. Several players around the league echoed that sentiment, and Kareem aligned with that view. In Kareem's mind, being physical was acceptable. Playing without accountability was not. Even decades later, Kareem never softened his stance. He rarely spoke negatively about former players, but Laimbeer was an exception. When asked in interviews about opponents he didn't respect, Kareem mentioned Lame Beer by name. His reasons remained consistent: excessive physicality, lack of accountability, and on-court behavior that Kareem felt crossed competitive boundaries. Their relationship never improved, and Kareem never pretended otherwise. He didn't view Lame Beer as a villain or a personal enemy. He simply viewed him as a player who ignored the standards of professionalism Kareem believed in. To Kareem, basketball required discipline and control. Lame Beer chose a different path, and the contrast between those approaches left a lasting divide. Bill Lame Beer wasn't the most talented center Kareem faced, nor the strongest, but he represented a style Kareem fundamentally rejected. That difference in values, more than any individual incident, made Lame Beer one of the few players Kareem Abdul-Jabbar openly admitted he never respected. Kent Benson is the player most famously associated with one of the defining moments of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career, and one of the clearest examples of a player Kareem never respected. Their history comes down to a single night, a single incident, and the larger meaning Kareem attached to it. On October 18, 1977, the Lakers opened their season against the Milwaukee Bucks. Benson was a rookie, the #1 overall pick in that year's draft. Kareem, by contrast, was already an MVP, a Finals MVP, a champion, and the best center in basketball. The difference in experience and accomplishment between them was enormous. But early in the game, Benson made a decision that shaped their relationship permanently. During a routine post-possession, Benson elbowed Kareem hard in the stomach. The officials didn't call a foul, but the elbow was visible, intentional, and unnecessary. Kareem doubled over, stepped away, and tried to gather himself. For the next few minutes, he kept his distance from Benson, staying on the opposite side of the floor. Then, when the ball moved to the other end and play slowed, Kareem walked back toward Benson and punched him in the face, breaking Benson's jaw. Kareem immediately received a fine and a suspension, but that wasn't the story that mattered to him. What mattered was the elbow, not the punch. Kareem had dealt with targeted physicality his entire career, from the moment he entered the league in 1969. Opponents often tried to test him, frustrate him, or knock him out of rhythm, but Kareem separated normal physical play from actions he believed crossed the line. Benson's elbow fell into the latter category. From Kareem's perspective, Benson showed disrespect on his very first possession against him. Kareem believed veterans earned a level of deference, especially from new players who had yet to establish themselves. An opponent initiating cheap contact in the first minutes of his NBA career was something Kareem couldn't overlook. It wasn't just the force of the elbow, it was what the elbow represented. A rookie trying to assert toughness through unnecessary contact. That incident set the tone for how Kareem viewed Benson from that night forward. Kareem didn't respect players who used elbows or punches to make a statement, and Benson's introduction to the league fit that pattern exactly. Benson was a strong post player in college, but he struggled to translate that dominance to the NBA. Over time, he became known more for his physical play and for the altercation with Kareem than for consistent production. Kareem, who valued skill, discipline, and longevity, saw Benson as the opposite of what he considered a true professional. In later interviews, Kareem never backed away from his opinion of Benson. He spoke openly about the moment and explained why he reacted the way he did. Kareem rarely talked about personal grudges, but when he did mention Benson, it was always in the same context. Benson crossed a line, and Kareem didn't forget it. He viewed Benson's elbow as intentional and as an act that demanded a response. Their careers continued in the same league for years afterward, but they never repaired the relationship. Benson went on to play for several teams, including the Bucks, Pistons, and Jazz. Kareem continued winning MVP awards and championships with the Lakers. They crossed paths occasionally, but there was never a moment of reconciliation, never a sense that the initial incident was resolved. What made the situation unique is how direct and simple it was for Kareem. There were no layers, no extended rivalry, no back-and-forth confrontations. Benson hit him with an elbow he didn't respect, and that moment defined the way Kareem viewed him permanently. For a player who valued professionalism, focus, and playing the game the right way, Benson failed that test immediately. Kent Benson wasn't one of Kareem's long-term rivals. He wasn't an all-time great or a dominant center, but he created one of the clearest personal divides in Kareem's career. For one act, in one game, Benson lost Kareem's respect, and he never got it back. Larry Bird is one of the greatest players Kareem Abdul-Jabbar ever faced, and Kareem respected Bird's basketball intelligence and competitiveness. But Kareem also made it clear over the years that Bird was not someone he personally respected off the court during their playing days. Their relationship was shaped by the intense Lakers-Celtics rivalry, different personalities, and the way Bird approached competition in ways Kareem didn't always agree with. Kareem entered the league in 1969. Bird arrived a decade later in 1979. By the time Bird reached the NBA, Kareem was already a champion and MVP, but still playing at an elite level. Their primes overlapped through the 1980s, a period defined by the rivalry between their teams. The Lakers and Celtics met 3 times in the NBA Finals, 1984, 1985, and 1987. And those matchups shaped nearly everything about how their generation remembers that era. On the court, Bird presented a unique challenge. He wasn't the most athletic star Kareem had faced, but his timing, spacing, and decision-making forced defenses to think on every possession. Bird could shoot, pass, rebound, and run the offense without needing isolation or speed. Kareem respected those abilities. As he later said, Bird saw the game 2 steps ahead. But that respect for Bird's skill did not translate into personal admiration. What Kareem disliked was Bird's approach to psychological competition. Bird was relentless with verbal jabs, strategic trash talk, and constant attempts to unsettle opponents. He used confidence and communication to try to control the game's mental side. Kareem, by contrast, was quiet, private, and focused on discipline. He believed the game should be played with control rather than conversation. Bird's habit of talking throughout games, baiting defenders, and challenging opponents verbally went against what Kareem considered professional conduct. The tension between them grew during the 1984 Finals. That series was one of the most physical championship battles of the decade. Bird publicly criticized the Celtics after losses, called his teammates soft, and challenged them through the media. Kareem didn't respond publicly, but he disliked when players used the media as part of competition. The series itself became defined by hard fouls, confrontations, and momentum swings. Boston won in 7 games, and Bird's competitive fire became the storyline. Kareem viewed the approach differently. He respected the win, but not the theatrics surrounding it. The following year, the Lakers beat Boston in 6 games. That series was quieter, but the personal distance between Bird and Kareem remained. They shook hands, spoke briefly in pre-game meetings, and interacted professionally, but there was no sense of friendship. Kareem later said he felt Bird didn't give respect to certain veteran players early in his career, liking things too confrontational and too public for Kareem's taste. Their final finals meeting came in 1987. By then, both were aging, but the rivalry remained intense. The Lakers won in 6 games, and Kareem earned another championship at age 40. Even in that series, Bird kept his competitive edge sharp. He challenged opponents constantly, talked throughout games, and stayed vocal in the press. Kareem played with the same quiet intensity he always had. The contrast in personalities remained as strong as ever. After retiring, Kareem spoke respectfully about Bird's accomplishments, but remained honest about their distance. He said Bird was a great player, but not someone I connected with. Kareem valued professionalism, privacy, and emotional control. Bird thrived on pressure, confrontation, and psychological tactics. Those differences kept them from forming mutual respect during their careers. Interestingly, once both were removed from playing, their relationship improved. They appeared together in interviews, documentaries, and NBA events, speaking with mutual appreciation. But Kareem remained consistent about one thing. He never respected Bird during their playing days. The rivalry was too intense, the approaches too different, and the competitive environment too charged for any personal respect to form. Larry Bird wasn't a player Kareem disliked for lack of skill. He disliked the way Bird carried competition into personal space, used psychological pressure, and challenged opponents publicly. Their talent levels were equal. Their values were not. And for Kareem, that difference kept Bird on the list of players he never respected during his NBA career. Wayne Embry is one of the few people Kareem Abdul-Jabbar openly said he never respected, and it had nothing to do with basketball ability. Their issue came from one moment in Kareem's career, his request to leave Milwaukee. The way Embry handled that situation shaped Kareem's opinion permanently. By 1975, Kareem was already a champion, an MVP, and the face of the Bucks franchise. But off the court, he wasn't comfortable in Milwaukee. Kareem valued privacy, cultural connection, and a community that aligned with his personal life. He didn't have that in Wisconsin. After years of trying to adjust, he asked the organization for a trade to either New York or Los Angeles, the 2 places where he felt he could live comfortably. Kareem made the request privately, expecting a conversation based on understanding. He explained his reasons clearly and didn't make it about teammates, coaching, or basketball. For him, the decision was personal. But Embry, the Bucks' general manager, saw the situation strictly through a business lens. He emphasized Kareem's contract, the team's leverage, and what Milwaukee deserved in return. Kareem felt the human side of his request wasn't taken seriously. Embry wasn't dismissive in a confrontational way. He simply approached the situation as an executive, protecting the franchise. But that approach is exactly what Kareem disliked. He wanted acknowledgement of why the request mattered. Instead, he felt the conversation shifted immediately to negotiations, conditions, and trade value. Tension grew when Embry refused to send Kareem to New York. The Knicks were one of Kareem's preferred destinations, but Embry didn't believe they could offer enough in return. From the team's standpoint, that made sense. From Kareem's standpoint, it reinforced the idea that Embry wasn't listening. Kareem didn't expect the Bucks to take a bad deal, but he expected some empathy for his personal reasons, and he didn't feel he received any. Eventually, Embry agreed to trade Kareem to the Lakers. The deal was strong for Milwaukee: Elmore Smith, Brian Winters, Dave Myers, and Junior Bridgman. The move worked for Kareem as well, since Los Angeles was one of his preferred cities. But even though the final outcome was acceptable, the process stayed with him. He believed Embry treated the situation like any other transaction, ignoring the fact that Kareem had given the franchise its greatest success. Kareem rarely criticized people publicly, but he was direct about Embry. In interviews, when asked about people he didn't respect, Kareem consistently mentioned Embry and pointed back to how the trade request was handled. He didn't appreciate how quickly the conversation shifted away from his reasons and into leverage and negotiations. He felt unheard, and that feeling lasted long after he left Milwaukee. Their relationship never recovered. They spoke occasionally after their careers ended, mostly at league events, but there was no real reconciliation. Kareem never softened his stance. He respected Embry's accomplishments as a front office leader and understood his impact on the league, but he didn't move past the way their final year in Milwaukee unfolded. The divide wasn't about winning, losing, contracts, or playing time. It was about communication and understanding. Kareem expected a personal conversation. Embry delivered a business response. That difference, and the timing of it, created a break that Kareem never repaired. Wayne Embry wasn't an opponent or a rival on the court. He was an executive who handled a pivotal moment in a way Kareem couldn't accept. And for someone who valued trust and honesty as much as Kareem did, that was enough to put Embry on the short list of people he never respected. Wilt Chamberlain is one of the greatest players in basketball history, but he's also one of the few legends Kareem Abdul-Jabbar openly admitted he never respected. Their relationship stretched across 2 generations and was shaped not just by competition, but by personality clashes, public criticism, and deep differences in values. When Kareem entered the league in 1969, Wilt was already a superstar with scoring titles, MVPs, and a reputation as the most physically dominant player the game had ever seen. Kareem admired Wilt's gifts, but he didn't admire how Wilt used them. Kareem believed Wilt didn't always compete with maximum effort, especially in big moments, and he said openly that Wilt's approach lacked the consistency great players needed. Their friction didn't start on the court, it started years earlier. While Kareem was dominating college basketball at UCLA, Wilt made comments that Kareem felt were dismissive, framing his success as the result of height rather than skill. Kareem never forgot that tone. By the time they faced each other in the NBA, Wilt was past his prime, but their matchup still represented 2 of the most unique centers the league had ever seen. The battles didn't create mutual respect, they magnified their differences. Kareem valued preparation, discipline, and accountability. He felt Wilt relied too much on natural ability and too often explained losses instead of owning them. That contrast became a constant theme in their relationship. But the real fractures came after Wilt retired and moved into media. Wilt frequently criticized Kareem's intensity, leadership, and even the skyhook. He claimed Kareem relied too much on finesse and said he would have dominated Kareem if they had played during Wilt's peak. Kareem viewed these comments as self-serving attempts to stay in the spotlight. Kareem also believed Wilt exaggerated stories for attention. Wilt claimed he invented the dunk Kareem used in college. He claimed certain matchups unfolded in ways that didn't match film or stats. Kareem pushed back, saying Wilt often shaped reality to protect his legacy. They also disagreed fundamentally on how success should be measured. Kareem valued championships and team commitment. Wilt often emphasized personal records, points, rebounds, and unmatched individual feats. Kareem believed Wilt could have won far more if he embraced team concepts earlier. Wilt disagreed, pointing to coaching decisions and circumstances. Their arguments played out publicly for years. Personality differences only widened the gap. Kareem was private, structured, and serious. Wilt was theatrical, outspoken, and loved the spotlight. Kareem felt Wilt constantly tried to elevate himself above modern players by referencing different eras or different rules, something Kareem saw as insecurity rather than insight. Even in retirement, the tension didn't fade. Wilt wrote in his autobiography that he was better than Kareem in nearly every category except longevity. Kareem responded by questioning Wilt's honesty about his own legacy. Neither softened their stance. Kareem always acknowledged Wilt's importance to basketball and respected his impact on the sport. But respect for Wilt's talent never translated to respect for Wilt as a person. Kareem believed Wilt sought credit in ways that diminished others and told stories that didn't match reality. The rivalry wasn't built on one incident. It was built on years of public comments, contrasting values, and philosophical disagreements. Kareem saw Wilt as a legendary athlete whose words didn't always match the truth. And for someone as disciplined and principled as Kareem, that was something he couldn't overlook. That's why Wilt Chamberlain remains one of the very few all-time greats Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said he never respected. Red Auerbach. Red Auerbach is one of the most influential figures in NBA history, but he's also one of the few people Kareem Abdul-Jabbar openly said he never respected. And unlike Kareem's issues with players such as Wilt Chamberlain or Kent Benson, this tension didn't come from the court. It came from the way Auerbach handled Kareem during one of the most important decisions of his life. The story goes back to 1969 when Kareem, then Lou Altendorf, entered the NBA draft as the most coveted prospect the league had ever seen. Teams weren't just scouting him, they were preparing long-term franchise plans. The NBA arranged a special coin flip between the last-placed teams in each division, the San Diego Rockets on one side, the Boston Celtics, led by Auerbach, on the other. Before the coin flip, Auerbach tried to recruit Kareem personally. He believed Boston's championship culture was the perfect home for the league's next superstar. Kareem was respectful during those conversations, but privately, he knew Boston wasn't where he wanted to be. He didn't feel a cultural connection to the city and didn't believe it was the right environment for a young black man in the late 1960s. He simply saw no long-term future there. He didn't mislead Auerbach, he just didn't pretend to be interested. San Diego won the coin flip, Boston lost his chance at Kareem, and that's when things changed. Shortly afterward, Auerbach began making public comments, suggesting Kareem didn't want to join the Celtics because he was too sensitive, not competitive enough, or unwilling to embrace the pressure of a historic franchise. Kareem saw those comments not only as inaccurate, but as personal shots designed to reframe the narrative so Boston wouldn't appear rejected. To Kareem, this wasn't about basketball, it was about integrity. Instead of accepting the outcome professionally, he felt Auerbach tried to make Kareem look like the one lacking toughness or understanding, when in reality, Kareem had simply chosen a different path for personal reasons Auerbach never bothered to ask about. Kareem also disliked Auerbach's tendency to speak confidently about players he didn't know. When Auerbach made claims about Kareem's mindset or competitiveness, Kareem viewed them as baseless, especially coming from someone who had never coached him, worked with him, or spent meaningful time around him. The comments didn't end in 1969. Years later, Auerbach continued referencing Kareem in interviews, often comparing Celtics legends to stars from newer eras. Kareem felt these comparisons were dismissive, especially when Auerbach implied the old Celtics centers would have handled Kareem easily, or suggested that Boston's players were tougher and more team-first. Kareem never responded publicly at the time, but he remembered. He saw Auerbach's comments as attempts to protect the Celtics mythology, even when it meant downplaying facts or exaggerating claims. Their relationship never improved. Even long after retirement, Kareem rarely spoke positively about Auerbach. When asked about people in basketball he didn't respect, Auerbach's name consistently appeared. Kareem always acknowledged Auerbach's brilliance as a basketball mind, but he believed Auerbach never handled their interactions with honesty. For Kareem, it wasn't about rivalry or winning, it was about truth. He valued communication, sincerity, and fairness, and he felt Auerbach violated those principles from the moment the Celtics lost the chance to draft him. Red Auerbach never yelled at Kareem, never coached him, never played against him, but he shaped a narrative Kareem believed was dishonest, and for a man built on discipline and integrity, that was something he would never respect. That's why Red Auerbach remains one of the few figures Kareem Abdul-Jabbar publicly said he never respected. Red Auerbach earned respect from most of the basketball world, but not from Kareem. And when someone of Kareem's stature draws that line, it says everything about how deep the disagreement really was. And if you want to see another legend speak with that same level of honesty, check out our next video, where Shaquille O'Neal breaks down the debate between LeBron James and Michael Jordan and finally ends the argument his own way. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss it.